Hey everybody, welcome to the Tale of the Tape After Show for BattleBots. I'm your host, Will Bales. This is Mike Galately and Andreas Suarez. We're going to be talking tonight about episode 4. That was just last night that you guys were in. We're going to do things a little bit differently this time. After every fight, we're going to answer a couple questions. So those of you live streaming can ask us questions about the fight instead of waiting until the end for the final QA session. So, I guess we should go right into the Blacksmith versus Minotaur fight. So, alright, so Blacksmith, wow. I love Blacksmith.
It definitely has personality.
Yeah. If only that hammerhead would stay on. Minotaur there is just dangerous and dense. Beastly. That's a great way to put it.
But look at their defense cores are pretty close, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think we should just roll the fight. So, Minotaur does their usual thing of just chilling out in the box and then waiting.
Do they do that? I feel like Daniel's usually pretty aggressive. I think he was waiting to see what Al was going to do here.
Well, yeah, I'm sure that's his tactic. I mean, there's a point in this fight where you see him just like intensely staring at what's going on, and it's a great right there, like he's focused. He's not doing anything like just haphazardly. He's making sure he knows what he's doing. So
he's done this before.
Yeah, and he's fought really good wedges. I mean, so far Blacksmith's doing a really good job of not letting him under, letting Minotaur under him until that point. And right there is where everything changed.
With those hinge wedges like that, after the first hit, you're done. You know, he's gonna go to you every single time.
Yeah. It's a shame.
And this is when he starts really using his hammer, because he was really conservative up to this point. He was trying to wedge, he wouldn't hammer him at the same time.
Yeah.
Now he just goes crazy.
Yeah.
The hammer's going all over the place.
And so one thing we learned about Minotaur is that they almost never go above 40%, right, Mike?
You can hear when they go full throttle. And I think he's usually pretty conservative with it. Allows him to get a better bite on the other guy. So this seems to be working pretty well for him.
Yeah, the wedge just disappeared.
The wedge left.
Yeah, at that point, being Al, and we'll have him call in a couple minutes. Like you just gotta wonder if you even have a chance at that point.
There's the epiphany moment. I think of like, oh man.
Yeah.
I need to change. Yeah, I wonder if he changes his tactic or just goes all out here.
Yeah, I see him just going all out. You know, he's either going to destroy his robot or win the fight.
One part of this that's great is Al, as Minotaur's pushing Al towards the wall, Al actuates the hammer, which causes him to pop up, kind of like old Toro, and Minotaur flies through and hits the wall, one or two times, which I thought was a great tactic at first, but I think Daniel got wise to that after a while.
Definitely. Yeah, it's so sad to see that happen to Blacksmith, because I personally love Blacksmith, and I think he did a really good job of driving as good as you can do against Minotaur.
Yeah, nobody wants to fight Minotaur.
No. I don't think that. Yeah. Maybe Matt Maxim wants to fight him.
Probably.
Yeah. Stinger probably wants to fight him, but that's about it. Yeah, he'll fight anybody. Matt will fight anybody.
Well, I think one of the great things, usually it's more impressive to watch him live than it is to watch him on TV. But for this match, having the audio inside the arena is so cool, because you have that drum going, the hammer going. So I thought that was great.
There's Chris just like losing it. I'm amazed how well Blacksmith held up. There he is again.
Daniel was crazy.
Yeah.
I wonder if his jaw hurts after making that face for the first 10 minutes.
Just look at the beating that Blacksmith is taking, and the front of it's totally gone, and
Seems
obviously that's
there.
bad, and that's the end of it.
Explosion. So
yeah.
Blacksmith.
But yeah, I mean it's frankly it's amazing that it held up that long.
It was great.
I'm pretty sure. Did this go to the full 3 minutes?
Al's smiling there.
Yeah.
In that post.
Al was great. Al was great. And they're doing their little gyro dance. And yeah, it looks really good. So let's go to some of the damage photos that we got after the fight. So this is the front of Blacksmith, and as you can see, it is a bit trashed.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
it's wow. There's just so much damage, and the fact that it was still running for so long, I'm pretty sure BattleBots today posted a clarification thing about the fight that it actually went the full 3 minutes and had to go to a judge's decision because Blacksmith was counted out after the 3 minutes. So it didn't actually. It went the full 3 minutes. So Blacksmith,
So
by all accounts,
That's a testament to Al.
yeah,
Yeah.
For what
Yeah,
it's worth,
that's
it was
impressive.
a unanimous judge's decision, so there was
Yeah.
no question.
yeah.
But I mean, to last 3 minutes with Minotaur going, full hand.
That's no easy feat, no matter who you
Absolutely.
are.
So that's a testament to Al, especially
Yeah.
a first-year robot, obviously. So
Right.
that's-
I mean, Al's
awesome.
obviously been doing stuff for years, and he was at the original BattleBots on Comedy Central, so he knows what's going on. But as a first foray into new ABC BattleBots, he did a great job. The next photo, you can see the giant bites out of Blacksmith's wedge there. Now, there's a red line going across that is the original leading edge of that wedge, and I when I saw this photo, I didn't believe it, frankly, when you showed me this. But I mean, it took full width bites out of it. Minotaur's drum is a single tooth. It's hardened tool steel, so it's super super hard, and it took full bites right out of it, which is amazing. So
that's pretty amazing.
I've never seen that. I mean, I've seen like
Yeah, like
our
our
teeth
little-
are like itty bitty little
Yeah,
things.
that characteristic, Witch Doctor tooth or
Yeah, yeah,
One-
and
one
that
flat,
looks
one
great. It
square,
looks really
yeah.
cool, but I've never seen
that's
this.
impressive. That's
So
impressive.
I don't know what it was made of. Here, let's get a. Oh, there is a picture of the dents on top of Minotaur. So they did add a titanium plate on top to try to give themselves a little extra armor. And we said, I think last week, that Blacksmith isn't the most dangerous robot there, but the fact that it put any dents in it at all is impressive.
I think that's titanium, right?
Yeah, it's like
switched
1/8 inch
the-
tie.
Yeah, so that's pretty impressive.
Oh, it's definitely impressive. So let's get Al on the phone.
Special guest. Al.
That's a very flattering picture, by the way.
Yeah. It's the best photo we could come. We could have gotten the one with it.
Hello?
Hey Al, it's Will. We're live on the Tail of the Tape After Show. We've got Mike Lately here and Andrea Suarez, and so we've got a few questions for you. First, overall, what did you think of the fight?
I thought it was really good. It was a really tough fight.
Well, we were just commenting that we're impressed that you went the full 3 minutes. That takes some serious, power to be able to do that against Minotaur. So kudos. But we were wondering, at what point did you realize that your hammer was going to fall off again?
Well, after we lost it during the Bronco fight, and the Lincoln guys welded it back together for us, but we were really kind of worried that it wasn't going to hold, because if it broke before the repair, odds are it was going to break again. It lasted pretty long into the fight, though, and I don't know, we just kind of anticipated it might happen if the fight went too long, and basically the fight went as long as it could have gone. So, and it did end up happening again, but we really couldn't hold back too much to try to save the hammerhead, because that wouldn't do as much good either.
Right. So going against Minotaur, and they have Riobots just in general is a force to be reckoned with. So you had never fought them, I guess, because you'd never actually gone to Robo Games, right?
Yeah, this was our first heavyweight robot, and the biggest bot that I had ever built personally. And but yeah, we haven't been out to the West Coast in quite a while since season 2 BattleBots the last time around, 16 years ago.
Right. So going up against Minotaur, and after having to fight Bronco, you obviously had tough matchups. Reminds me of Witch Doctor season 1. What is your emotional state like? What are you thinking? What's your strategy trying to go in against Minotaur?
I thought we actually had a really good chance. Our wedge layout was pretty much ideal for actually combating a drum, and for the first 30 seconds or minute or so, we were doing really well, and we were able to keep the wedge pointed at him. One thing I noticed early on, that as he got close, and then if he accelerated real quick, he was kind of doing a little wheelie, and his little wedges were lifting off the floor. So we were able to get the wedge under there, and once he was on the wedge, we were all right. But at some point point, we kind of turned a little bit, and he caught the edge. And once he peeled up that one edge of our wedge, and it kind of tweaked the whole thing a little. And I noticed after watching the fight a few times now that the wedge was then like, it looked like a quarter of an inch off the floor most of the way across, and then we really couldn't do anything to defend against the drum at that point.
Gotcha. Yeah, so we saw Blacksmith explode again with this green fireball. What exactly happened? Because we know that there's propane in there from the fire hammer, but like, why is it blowing up?
Actually, neither one of those fires in the Rumble or the Minotaur match had anything to do with propane, as far as we know. Both times it was the hammer motor, which is a NPC Black Max, was just getting so hot that the armature, the epoxy, the varnish, whatever from inside the motor was literally leaking out of the motor and just burst into flames inside the bot. So it was the motor being hot, nothing else.
Jeez.
We didn't lose any other electronics or anything in either fight.
That's amazing. So, going into a season 3, specifically if you had to ever fight Minotaur again, would you do anything differently? Would you change anything?
As far as strategy in the fight, really not, but in execution of the bot design itself, we would definitely make some changes. Possibly a different configuration wedge specifically for drums, but definitely something to strengthen up that bottom edge so we don't get that peeling effect. And because that's going to be key. If you don't have your front wedge in place, you're really not going to be able to defend again because you just hit so hard.
Yeah. Yeah, we were commenting how amazing it is that he took full width bites with his drum right out of that wedge.
Yeah, there's I have some pictures up. There's just chunks taken out of it, and it's 3/16 AR 400, just bent and chunked like it was butter.
Wow, that's really thick. That's some of the thickest armor that there is in the competition, I think.
It's what we had weight for, and we thought, and it's pretty tough stuff, but still, I'm going to make some design changes for sure, where the bottom edge peeled up into right up to the point where we had the horizontal reinforcement, so we can actually put that right down on the floor, and we could really just have to thicken up that leading edge.
Cool. Well, I'm excited to see a Blacksmith 2 in season 3.
I can't wait.
I can't wait. I know everyone's going to love it. The flying feature versus Bronco was a really nice little addition that you should definitely incorporate.
Outside, I couldn't hear you.
Oh, the flying feature against Bronco, I think that was a nice little addition.
Yeah, we kept that secret for pretty long, right into that fight.
All right, well, thanks for calling in, Al, and we'll see you next season.
Okay, great. Looking forward to it. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Okay.
Hey, welcome back. So, long story short, the stream cut out. So that was a recording of, 20 minutes ago?
Back in time.
Yeah, back in time. So, Alex, are there any questions about the Blacksmith versus Minotaur match?
Yeah, actually, there are some good ones. One question, actually, the first one was, what is your assessment of the danger Minotaur has against others with strong frontal wedges?
What is the danger of Minotaur against others with strong frontal wedges? Well, I don't know. As someone who had a strong vertical spinner in the past and had to go up against wedges, what do you think, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, either outdrive them or keep going at the wedge, and eventually that, Minotaurs, obviously their plan was to take that wedge off and open up Blacksmith.
Well, Minotaur wanted to out-wedge the wedges with those little wedgelets, they call them, like those little
forks,
steel
yeah.
bars that they put in the front.
Yeah.
But I think their problem is, like I think you mentioned before, since every time they drive, they kind of bounce back a little bit. It's just as they're going to accelerate forward, they get the other wedge under them.
Yeah. Yeah, as far as an answer specifically to the question, eventually, he'll meet his match, but it's wedge versus drum. That's kind of what it comes down to as the best armor. So that's what they'll have to do. That's the only challenge, and it's the only really good way to defend against a robot like Minotaur.
Yeah, and like you saw in the match, once that wedge gets messed up,
You're screwed.
It's pretty much the opposite of what you want. You're allowing that Minotaur to go right in there, so it's actually hurting him at that point.
Yeah, you want it to be detachable.
Right.
Yeah.
But in like a voluntary way,
Yeah,
not
like-
in the Blacksmith way.
Yeah.
Alex, another question?
Another question from JG5400. Was there any kind of clutching or other setup to isolate the motor from shock? Or was it just being slammed hard into the other robot?
I'm guessing that's probably for Blacksmith.
Yeah.
I don't know. It would have been a good question for Al. Did you get a good look at it at the event?
I did not get a good look at the inside of Blacksmith, but I would suspect since it kept blowing up, that
Not enough.
he did not have a clutch or it was not loose enough.
Yeah. I think the answer is not enough.
Not enough clutch.
All right. Is there one more? Otherwise, we'll keep going. All right. So next fight is Lucky versus Yeti. So it's the Battle of the Beards. They look so cute together.
I love that it was actually a Battle of the Beards, like on the official BattleBots Facebook.
Yeah.
ABC website.
Yeah.
It was legit.
Yeah. Rob and Greg have pretty interestingly matching beards. So here's the fight beardless. So last week we talked about Yeti. I expressed my love for Yeti and its similarities to HyperShock. But right out of the bat, Lucky looks like it's having a hard time.
He can get it up, but he can't put it back down.
Right. Yeah, which normally isn't a problem, but like here, this is a real issue. This is a thing that they struggle with the entire competition. You saw it against Beta, and that arm is just up there, chilling, and they're trying to get it down. It eventually purges, but they get a hit, and if they're lucky, it's a good flip. But even still,
If they're lucky. No pun intended.
ah, God, that hurts. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Never again.
That's the
Never
last
again.
one.
So, one thing. Okay, so we just glossed over two very important things. Lucky lost its flipping arm, which is like really bad, and Yeti lost a wheel. I don't even know how it lost a wheel.
I guess a non-weapon robot, right? Like,
Yeah. They got the wheels from Bronco, right?
That's what I heard, yeah.
You were saying earlier that maybe it was like a sabotaged wheel. I don't care if it's patchy.
What's patchy?
Feet.
Oh.
But I mean, despite missing a wheel, like dodgy wheel,
Yeti still drove like a boss.
yeah, and got a really good hit in there. And I mean, if you're lucky at this point, obviously, clearly they're having some drivetrain issues. But if you lost your flipping arm and you're a flipping robot, is there with the way that the judging has changed, where aggression requires a weapon? Like, is there any hope?
I don't think so.
Well, actually, I talked to Greg before this match to get some background, and he said that he actually almost lost one of the speed controllers on the opposite side, on the side that had the two wheels.
Oh,
So one of the components, one of the mouse pads actually fell off and was rattling around in the robot.
that would have been bad.
So knowing that, if you watch the match again, you'll see that Yeti's also having driving problems towards the end of the match. So it's kind of a ticking time bomb on both sides.
Yeah, like right there, it's doing its little dance, which is awesome, and I love it. But so do we have the picture of the tire? Yeah, so that tire.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye. Having seen the whole fight, do you think that tire did made a difference?
You mean to the outcome of the match?
Yeah.
No.
I mean, kudos to Yeti for being able to drive with only
Yeah,
three
absolutely.
tires. And that's the whole point of having four-wheel drive, is that if you lose one and they're not protected, you're not totally hosed.
Right. Well, and he's got the arms, which helps stabilize the robot, I think, driving around a little bit.
Right. Yeah. I'm impressed that it did so well, given that it almost blew a speed controller on the other side.
Yeah.
Then on the Yeti side, or on the Lucky side, there was also some damage, obviously. So that's one of the top plates, which looks a little shredded. You can actually see in the top corner, the top right corner, the black box there is one of that speed controller, that faulty speed controller.
I think we have a picture of that, though, separately.
Yeah, we don't have a picture of that one.
We don't?
And this
we
is
don't
actually
think we
part
put
of
it.
Lucky's armor that they gave to Yeti. I got this picture from Greg. So, it's just kind of that tradition of giving parts that you break off and signing them and kind of keeping them as trophies is fun.
Yeah, I've got a great collection, mostly of my own broken pieces. But
I don't think it counts if you keep them. You have to give them away. One man's trash is another man's treasure.
Yeah. So the picture, this photo where the arm is gone. That's
Sad.
that's the point of no return for Lucky. At least at that point, Lucky Yeti had lost a wheel. Lucky could have outdriven him. And they're having their purge problems, but they could have used it as like a corralling thing for the drum, and
Well, not
maybe
only
it
does
got
your
a couple
arm
hits
break
in it.
off, but I think it actually gets stuck behind the screw augers, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, it did, which is
It's
great.
just a nice touch.
Yeah, it's a nice little touch. That was a good fight. Yeti deserved it totally. It should be interesting to see. I forget who they fight in the next round. It'll be interesting because I would love that robot to go all the way. I want to see what happens. Alex, do you have any questions?
Yes. Why did Lucky take so long to reload?
You want to talk about it?
Reload?
Yeah.
The arm.
Reload
That's
the
a
arm.
good question. You go ahead, yeah.
Well, so Lucky's arm is pneumatic, and you put a whole bunch of compressed air in, and then it has to come out somehow, and in order for it to go back. And for some reason, they were having lots of issues purging the air. It was a single action cylinder, so they couldn't retract it forcibly. I think they were relying on springs and just kind of an open air feed.
I
valve.
don't know if they have a mechanical return or what. I mean, what?
I recall hearing about springs and at least on the inside to reduce the shock at the end and to kind of help kick back. But whatever it wasn't enough. And it's a shame because in the past, the robot called Ziggy, which is like the predecessor to Lucky, did really well. And there's a couple really good videos on YouTube of Ziggy versus like Sewer Snake throwing it 4 or 5 feet in the air and across the arena. It's an amazing robot, and that's definitely why it got in. And I hope that for season 3, Lucky gets all the kinks figured out. I think it was one of those things where they got it all together for the first time at the event. This happened to us last year. You get it all together at the event, and you don't really have enough time to troubleshoot. Something happens. So,
and I think Lucky's teammates were spread out quite far, right? Like
they were.
The captain, I think, is Canadian. Obviously, they're Canadian flag flying, and I think there's some guys from New Hampshire area.
Rob
Northern
Masek,
area.
the big guy in the overalls, he's in New Hampshire, Boston area. Gary Jin, who drove, he's from California.
I think we should talk about that also.
What?
Gary Jin. So Lucky, they basically had a substitute driver, Gary Jin, who's an amazing driver, pilot Lucky, and
Which is a good call,
it's a good call,
but he had no practice.
no practice. And Gary typically competes with just big wedge robots, right? So
Passive weapons.
Passive weapon, let's say it that way. And something with a pneumatic flipper, obviously, it's a little bit different, I think, driving that compared to what he's used to driving. So I think it was an interesting call to have somebody. Granted, Gary Jin has kind of a stature of being an amazing driver. So
Rightfully so.
absolutely.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Yes. Was there any specific failure point to Lucky?
If I had to say one failure point, I think it's the inability to purge. Because if they could purge and refire, they could flip again and again and again. They did get a couple hits in there, both against Beta and against Yeti. But every single time it goes up, the other robot hits the floor, resets itself, and then hits him again. And so, I think that's the only thing. If they fix that, it'll be a totally different game.
One last question
Yeah.
for this one. You mentioned before that Yeti and HyperShock were similar, but he was pragmatic. Can you clarify about that?
dug yourself into a hole.
Oh,
on that
crap.
one.
What I meant by that is that when we built HyperShock, we decided to do everything as complicated as possible and kind of do it as a test of what could we do, see what we could push ourselves to do, and kind of push what anyone had done. So no one in their right mind would make a competitive robot out of carbon fiber.
What about Bad Kitty?
Oh,
that's Kevlar.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, Kevlar and fiberglass. And he has experience in the past, like BD6, doing really well with that. But especially on the heavyweight class, no one's really done. There are very few fully composite robots. So doing that was a challenge of its own. And then brushless weapon drive, and then the drivetrain. This year we fixed it a lot, but everything we did, we just kind of went. We turned the dial to 11, and Yeti kept right at 10 and didn't go any more or less than that. They did everything that they knew would work, and made everything really durable as a result, and it shows. Even with one wheel gone and almost losing an entire speed controller, they can keep dishing out the paint. So I think we should probably go on to the Bronco versus Chromefly fight. I imagine this is the most unfairly matched match of the night. I mean, just look at the stats. I mean, is there any stat that isn't double so on the Bronco side?
Some are almost triple.
Yeah, Chromefly was
getting pretty close.
Chromefly was kind of what the heck? Why would you do that? And a better question is probably, why is Chromefly rated so low? They did beat someone. They, it's a new guy, it's a new robot, but Chromefly, won their first fight. Mm-hmm. Shouldn't they get some more points because of that? I mean, they are adapting the point system.
Right.
So
yeah, I wonder what it scored.
What gives
pre-qualifier?
That's a good question. We should have looked that up. So going into the pre-fight strategy, there's some important points to be made. So Chromefly is supposed to has two different types of blades, and this is a picture of their steel blade setup. They use the aluminum ones against bucktooth burl, right? And then they said in the show that they were going to use the steel ones for some reason. Because they broke.
Stronger. Yeah, the other ones broke, and these ones are stronger,
sharper,
sharper,
cooler looking.
Good. It's definitely a good choice, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And then they did something that you and I know really like, which is the anti-flipping guards, which you can see on the side.
These soft, kind of thin Lexan sheets there, kind of just cushion along the floor.
Yeah, and they're just kind of riding along the ground.
Yeah. Which is something we do with the little robots, 3-pounders and smaller.
Yeah.
It's a good way to get under the opponent, and you get that preloaded force from the plastic. So
yeah, and
they're light.
Yeah, so going up against Bronco's a challenge, but that's a pretty good tactic, I think. So how did it work out? Oh yeah, and so Bronco just kind of wedged back into him, which it's the right thing to do if you're up against spinners. And then all of a sudden,
I'm so surprised to see Bronco do that though. Bronco's always been all out. They're gonna flip you out of the arena.
Well, yeah, but I mean, Reason's no dummy. He's not gonna let you. Reason would be foolish to totally underestimate a robot, and I think they said something very wise in the pre-fight lead up, which is that this is a really good test of Bronco and the new armor scheme, and if they can't win against Chromefly, then they don't deserve to be in the event.
Well, I think their loss with Tombstone in season 1 is just so in front of them that they're making every decision. If this was a season 1 fight, I think they would have gone up with their flipper. I think after the Tombstone match, now they're so much more cautious, and
right.
This really shows.
So yeah, they took out the two bars and pushed them in the wall, and then basically flipped him out of the arena. Tried to flip the drone, but ended up on top of it somehow.
I thought their drone looked really good, and
it was one of the better looking drones.
Yeah.
He's got a drone company. It should be one of the best drones there.
And it's one of the only drones without fire.
Yeah. What was his weapon technique?
I think he had a couple different arrangements. One was just a big electromagnet, I think. Was he the one who had the drills, like the?
No, that was
Oh.
Basilisk and Mosquito.
Oops.
I was in the Rebels. But yeah, they had a couple different attachments. Like one was like a pitchfork looking thing. But look at the damage. So Crowfly lost both of its bars, and you'll notice that bar is not the same as the steel bar that they said they were going to use. Now, editing messes with things, and you say one thing and then right at the last minute you change stuff. I know for a fact that HyperShock changed a couple things after saying one thing or the other. Right. So I totally understand. But if they knew, their reasoning for using the steel bars seemed pretty sound. So why go back to the aluminum ones?
Maybe they were overweight.
Yeah, my theory is that since they added that Lexan, they kind of switched the bars and added the Lexan, and then went to weigh in and said, "Oh, we got to sacrifice one of the two," and that's what they went with.
Yeah, because the steel bars definitely look heavier.
Yeah.
Well, if they were in a position like we were, there was a difference in weight from.
Oh yeah, the accuracy of
from
the
home to the event. So
yeah,
we were, it was.
From home to the event. Totally.
So it was a 2-pound difference on our scale, which is uncalibrated, to there. So I mean, maybe they were in the same position. They might have been right at 250 at home, and then they get there and they were overweight. So speculation, obviously.
Yeah. Well, it begs the question: should they have kept the drone out to keep the steel bars?
I think so.
But and then there's the Lexan skirts, which we thought was a really great idea. I thought so. But there's Bronco like right under the steel skirt, the skirt. So like, I guess it didn't work. Well, there was a little bit of a gap on either side.
The fundamental flaw of the skirt was that it was only on the sides, not around the entire robot. So once Bronco got under that, it was pointless.
Right.
So.
Right. Yeah. So we did hear from Bronco that there was some actual damage from the first fight. From the first hit, they jacked up a wheel apparently because the back wedge doesn't actually completely cover the rear wheels, and they have 6, so it doesn't really matter. But they did get a little bit damage to the wheel, and a decent chunk of their AR-500 steel wedge was taken out by even the aluminum bars with the steel teeth. So if that's the case, I'm still impressed. As a first-year robot, it's pretty
cool.
good.
It's cool.
Oh, it was a cool idea, cool design, different.
I wonder if the cage on top was to help it roll over, in the event of a flip over.
I never thought about that.
But we didn't get to see that. So
yeah, well, yeah. Ironically, it never was upside down in the flipper fight. That's funny.
Well, I think also a good thing to point is that he's really young, and I think most of us started when we were as young as him, but we had the benefit of doing BattleBots IQ, which was the educational, competitions that we had. So he basically, has had to have that learning curve on national television against, people who have been competing for, like he said, his whole life. Yep. So I think he did a really impressive show.
Yeah, to his credit, it's important to note that he won his first BattleBots fight ever.
Which is more than half of the teams at the event can say.
Yeah. It's more than half of them will ever say. So, good job, George. And we hope that you actually, fix everything for season 3 and show us all up. Are there any questions? No questions?
There's one weird one, but I'm going to not. Sweet Potato Baby asks, how are the points assigned for each bot in the pre-fight matchups? I.e., how do you measure the weapon strength?
The tournament committee that chooses the wild cards, they come up with the metrics. They're pretty good. I mean, we joke that they look so disproportionate, but in fairness, Bronco lost a Tombstone last year. Mm-hmm. It is ranked 2nd, and then Chromefly is ranked 30th, 30th, yeah, so 31st. Yeah. So.
Well, I think part of those scores too is based on the history of the team and robots they've built before. Yeah. So not having that kind of history probably lowered their scores a little bit.
And the good news is that this season they are actually updating those numbers throughout the tournament. So keep track. It's actually interesting to see how things change. And as some of the Swiss Army robots change what attachment they have on, those numbers will change accordingly. So it's actually, I think they did a much better job this year of the trying to quantify something that's inherently so hard to quantify.
Another question was, how could you make a 10-pound drone actually do damage to a 250-pound robot if you aren't a stable platform?
I think everybody's still trying to figure that one out since it's
Yeah.
the first year that drones are around.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know
what
you
she said.
It's worth noting that neither of our teams use drones. We don't think it's doable yet. I can't wait to be proved wrong.
Was there a weight limit on drones, or
There was a soft weight limit on drones. It was 10 pounds takeoff weight. You could get special permissions. I think there was one flying robot that was 15 or 20 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
You could get special permissions if you knew what you were doing. But they're understandably concerned about a pound of propane flying around in the air. So, makes sense. Maybe next year there will be some. Well, actually, there are actually some good drone fights coming up.
There are.
So, I don't know. We'll see.
Not all the drones have been eliminated yet.
No, they have not.
So
And,
keep
and-
watching.
And some prove very important. So, keep watching. But
It's a step in the right direction.
It's a step in the right direction. It's it's new. It's exciting to watch.
They look awesome.
They do look awesome. Dang it. It looks so cool. I can't wait for one that just takes out an entire robot. I can't wait.
I think they have to up that 10-pound limit. I mean,
Yep.
for a drone to really do something, I think it needs to have substantial weight, equivalent weight. Maybe.
Yeah. All right, so let's go on to your favorite fight, the Witch Doctor versus Red Devil fight. So
That's our fight.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a tough one.
Yeah, I know. I know it's hard. We'll get through it together.
Okay.
So going into this, Red Devil was kind of going back and forth about the wedge, and they mentioned that they decided to be brave and go with the wedge. I talked to Jerome, and he was saying that their team was kind of going back and forth between the wedge and the fully actuated configuration, and he thought that they were hosed either way, that they were going to get wrecked. So
Yeah, I think that was an act. We went over there and he was telling us like, oh, my robot's got this weakness and this broke, and oh, look, this motor's so small. And he's kind of playing himself down,
I think Jerome and I are similar in that we are practical in the way that we talk about our own robots. Like, I know that there are weaknesses to HyperShock. Exposed wheels, for example, is a total weakness. The carbon fiber frame could be a weakness unto itself. You look at Red Devil and it's got exposed tracks, and it's very complicated. There's a lot of weight put into actuating all the parts instead of like.
But he's not dumb either. He's got redundant systems. I mean, the thing is built very well.
Right. It's worth noting that every single one of those pieces, so the individual tread pods on either side and the center thing with the clampy bits and the saw, all of those have independent power, independent control, independent receivers. So if any one of those things is taken out, the other two will still work. In fact, you could take apart the whole robot and
compete as a multi-
separate it across the entire arena, and it would still run. It's actually very cool.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. He's not dumb. He built it really well.
Yeah. And I'd just like to point out that I think his was the most underrated robot in the event. Like,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I agree.
a number 30
I agree.
seed. I mean,
Well, he
come
went
on.
up against Rex the first fight, so I think he really didn't get a chance. Rex basically did all the work during that match, so he just kind of was around and he tried to grab him around, but didn't really give the.
It was really damaged after that fight.
It was. Well,
It was,
Rex is insanely powerful, so not surprising. But Rex is jumping around and Red Devil's going after it. So yeah, inherently he got some damage.
Yeah. So then you guys changed yours tactics. So this is Shaman's.
This is Shaman's debut for this year. Yeah. So our first
improved.
match against Rotator, we opted for the wedge, rightfully so. And we were so excited to show off all the work we've done with Shaman with the green fire and the dual flamethrowers and everything that we were pretty quick to take this opportunity to put Shaman in.
Well,
Maybe
this is a single elimination tournament, so any match could be your last match. And we
Yep.
were just so afraid to go out without having Shaman in the arena. We were so excited for that green fire.
Yeah. Yeah, and it looked really good too. Do we have the photo of the green fire? It looked awesome. One thing that you can kind of get a glimpse of in the pre-fight intro when you guys do the little showboating weapon test is that it's shot Back to the Future style strips of green flame out the front, and it was so cool.
technically against the rules, I think. But
It
done
looked,
is done, right?
It looked great. So
it was
It did pass
Paul
the fire.
says, builder of Shaman says it was approved. So you know what? That's all that matters. So let's watch the fight. I know you hate watching this.
So we
You can see the streaks there on the floor.
Yeah, we sent Shaman in right before the match. We were like, hey, all right, Paul, you go in first with Shaman and try to get into his forks. That way, you basically block him up, and he can't really come out, jam him up, if you will. He can't come after Witch Doctor. That was clearly a miss, and then it was all downhill from there. So after that, I scoot out and go around the side. Jerome's robot is fast. He's a good driver, so he's on us. Grabs us, and we'll show the picture later. But the way the two robots, just the geometry of both robots, the way they interlock, we can't hit him, and the only thing that's contacting is his grabbers and his saw, and our discs are perfect in between his drive pod and his grabbing arms. So we're just basically just sitting there getting sawed, and the rule is 30 seconds. He can grab us for 30 seconds.
And I timed it. He was
And
totally
showboat
fair.
us around. Well, they were standing there yelling at him to let us go, and I was standing there, saying profanities, basically saying, let us go, please, sir. But once he actually grabs us first, and I don't think he actually has his saw going at first. But once he gets us over to the hammer area, he fires up the saw, it comes down, and we're at that point, I guess the saw was going there. But as soon as at this point right here, I'm already, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it's not looking good for us.
But
by the time he let us go, there was some smoke coming out, and we knew he had got us on the drive batteries. Basically, the way Witch Doctor set up is there's one side of the robot is weapon batteries, and one side of the robot is drive batteries, and the lifting arm is there's the picture there. So you can see our discs are just on the inside of his drive pod, and those arms are. One arm is holding down our lifting arm, so I actually at one point tried to push off on it.
And it
Did not do anything.
well, maybe that's what broke your sprocket.
Maybe.
Because you guys had a broken sprocket. You
did.
can see it in one of these photos. There's you can see the chain kind of drooping down.
Well, let's not get to that yet. So pull up the picture of the top plate, our cut top plate. So there you go. So that's basically the cover, the panel for our drive battery pod, if you will. So he got that right in the middle. It was literally right in the middle of our drive battery. Perfect shot by him. And our lifting arm is on that side as well. So basically we've got individual receivers and individual controllers, one for weapon, one for drive. So even after he lets us go and we start running around on batteries smoking, the drive's still working. The lifting arm seems to still be working, which is a testament to the batteries. We didn't actually catch on fire per se, but I was too focused on. I was just basically waiting to die, essentially. So I'm running away from Red Devil at the end of the match. You can see, I go around the arena. By then, Shaman had in Red Devil and Witch Doctor's tussling around the arena. He had dragged Witch Doctor over Shaman, flipped Shaman over, and I think one of our sprockets in the gearbox broke in half, which basically locked up the drive on that side. So Shaman was pretty much done at that point.
It all came down to those sprockets, huh?
Yeah.
Damn.
We should sue that sprocket manufacturer.
That was a question of, do you guys use the Martin sprockets from McMaster?
We do use the Martin sprockets from McMaster.
Did.
Whoever.
Don't
Did.
do that.
Yeah, whoever.
Charles.
Charles? Yes, Charles.
Yeah. Charles.
We actually have a question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ready for the question?
Yeah.
Sure.
Question: Witch Doctor's wheels were still moving at the end.
Yep.
Why did its self-righting arm fail?
So, good question. Great question. That's been the center of discussion over the past 2 days on Facebook and Reddit. So we get flipped. You see our drive working. As I mentioned, the self-righting system shares a battery with the drive. But I think right before we actually get flipped over, the sprocket explodes or fractures. So when we get flipped over, you probably have the picture there. So you can see, if you look close enough, the chain is totally not in tension and it's just laying on the arena floor. That's because the sprocket on the self-righting arm motor basically broke in half.
Is that the
fell
sprocket that
off.
you see there
I
on the
think it's
floor?
actually laying right there in the foreground of that picture.
It's almost like the lifting arm is pointing you at the sprocket.
Like-
Make it fun.
Yes,
Yeah,
this
like
thing killed
this.
us.
This
This
is-
thing killed us.
Yeah.
So yeah, really sucky way to go out, obviously.
But you know, as hard as it is for me to watch this match, it's still kind of a beautiful thing to see Red Devil work the way it was supposed to work.
Yeah.
Considering
Yeah.
it's such a complex machine. There's so many degrees of
Red
freedom.
Devil is awesome. Huge props to Jerome for building such an awesome robot.
Yeah.
I mean, and the great thing about Jerome is he machines most of his own parts. He has a little CNC Tormach in his
basically all of
garage.
them.
So he machines most of his parts. So, months leading up to the event, we're following his build report.
And it's amazing.
And we're like, oh my God, and it's everyday updates from Jerome, like
These
we're-
beautiful
yeah,
parts.
beautiful, whatever, huge
With
billet aluminum,
spares.
spares.
He builds
everything.
spares ahead of time, like a practical
Yeah.
person.
Like he must be unemployed or something. And all he
No,
does
he's
is
definitely
machine
not
parts all day.
employed.
I know.
He actually has a pretty good deal. They harped on it a little bit, but he was a car salesman, and he's like, you know what? I'm going to do engineering stuff. And so now he runs My Lifter, who is their sponsor, because it's him. And he gets to play with robots and little, building things all day. And he's actually got it figured out.
Sweet gig. He's got a sweet gig.
I really do hope that this is the way it's headed. That people see that designs like this could be successful, and it kind of challenges, the next era of BattleBots, new weapons.
Yeah, I remember when he showed me the video, like an animated video of that robot. I said, "There's no way that it'll be built." Foolish me, I should have known. It's Jerome, and B, that it would ever win. And here it is, winning 2 fights. It's built. It's exactly what he said it was. It looked exactly like the rendering does, and it's amazing. It's really great. I love it.
Yeah, and he's a super nice guy to boot. So
Yeah, he is a really nice guy.
So we've got some more damage pictures. So after
there's your photo.
the gigantic lipo Ghazi, we had to obviously rush the robot while they bring in these big vacuums and vacuum out all the deadly lipo smoke from the arena, and then afterwards they bring the robot outside and fire extinguisher it to death.
Yeah.
And that's what was left of the robot there. And
That smell will never leave the robot. We had to
Yeah.
put the robot in my car to move it to one of the events we went to, and my car now will forever smell like burnt lipo batteries.
Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry. Well, that being said, you guys were definitely on everyone's fantasy league.
Yeah, I
And
think
you've ruined all the leagues.
there's a lot of
You've ruined
upsets.
the entire thing. Everyone's going to have to totally redo their fantasy bracket because you screwed it up. So, any questions?
Fantasy bracket, right?
Oh, fantasy bracket? You don't know what the fantasy bracket is? Well, go to battlebots.com/fantasy, I think it is. And BattleBots has a fantasy league, just like fantasy football, fantasy basketball, and you should totally do it because it's awesome. So every week they're doing new. Yes.
We have one last question.
Oh yeah. Well yeah. Questions.
Williams39 says, I may have missed this, but why did Witch Doctor decide to go with Shaman and not have the wedge? I understand to make the weight requirements, but was there a strategy with Shaman going
Yeah, well, we talked a little bit about that. Our strategy was definitely to take Shaman, put it in the grabber, so it kind of obstruct their primary weapon, and then Witch Doctor could go around. Obviously, you know, like I said during the episode, it came down to the fact that we underestimated that saw, because usually we put on the wedge for any, you know, mostly horizontal spinning weapons, but any powerful spinning weapons, and we just didn't, I guess, think it was dangerous enough to put the plow. And like I said, we really wanted to use Shaman, so
Yeah.
that's, you know, in hindsight, definitely should have had the plow. It's nice and tall. We have the AR up there, but
Hindsight's always 20/20.
yeah.
Yeah. Any other general questions that we got?
What scent would you prefer Witch Doctor to have?
What scent?
Yeah.
What's
New car smell, obviously. That's
not lipo,
Anything but lipo.
not
battery
burnt motor smell.
I like, machining coolant. That's my number one smell.
Yeah. Any other questions? All right. Well, before we go, there's just a quick, verbal preview of next week. We got Tombstone versus Escape Velocity, Razorback versus Ghost Raptor, Complete Control versus Warhead, and Senawayachi versus Poison Arrow. Now, I know 2 of these fights, 3 of these fights, I did not see. You guys didn't see a couple of them either, just when they were. And I know that all of these are supposed to be really good.
I saw one of those matches that is going to be incredible.
Yeah.
You know, the season's just so unpredictable.
The one where
It's
NDA
great.
does the thing to NDA and it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
NDA stuff.
Yeah. The thing with NDA.
I'm pretty sure they defied physics on that one, but
Yeah, I'm amazed that NDA got enough purchase on NDA to do the NDA.
Too much NDA.
Too much NDA.
for those who don't know, NDA stands for non-disclosure agreement, which we had to sign plenty of.
Yeah, so we know kind of what happens. Because
we were there.
Because we were there. I honestly, there are 2 fights that I do not know who won.
But even when you know, it's so much fun not telling people.
Yeah, well, yeah, it is. But yeah, these are going to be great. It's going to be fun seeing Tombstone again because it's Tombstone.
I saw 3 of those fights, and they're all fantastic.
Yeah, I thought
All fantastic.
I thought this past episode was the best so far, and this is going to trump it. It's going to be great.
It's going to be great.
And then after that
It gets even better. The whole
It gets crazy.
The whole season's
it's-
amazing.
Yeah, this season by far is leaps and bounds better than last year. So yeah. If there's no more questions, I guess we'll
You want me to ask if there's any more?
go for
Sure.
it. They
We're
got
here.
a couple seconds.
Do you have any questions?
Paul, have any questions?
Paul?
Paul? No?
There was one, the shotgun work upside down. The answer's no.
Yeah, we saw that Shaman doesn't work upside down.
I mean, it does.
It lit itself on fire really well.
It just broke
Yeah.
when it flipped. That's why
Yeah.
it didn't work upside down.
Usually it does.
Coincidentally. Yeah, it's symmetric upside down, except for the nozzles.
Yeah. All right. Well, if then we have no more questions, then that's it for this evening. So join us next week. We got Friday at 9. We'll be here. We'll be talking about next week's episode. Hopefully, there will be some great photos to show you of some aftermath. And we'll see you next week.
See you.